Welcome to the Brent Gove podcast with co-host Eric Lawfolm. We are building 1 million agents in 100 countries in 10 years. Now, here's your host, Brent Gove.
And welcome to the big show. We're glad you're back. We got another great episode for you. I'm Brent Gove, your host, with my illustrious co-host, Mr. Eric Lawfolm. Eric, how you doing today?
Hey, Brent, I'm doing great. Excited to be with you today and our listeners. And we've got another great show lined up for all of you. Today, we're going to be talking about, are you a victim or victorious? The epidemic of victimology in our country. And so, Brent, get us started off. Share with us some ideas.
You said that perfectly. I love it. And I kind of got this idea from Jeff Foxworthy. If you've ever heard, he's a comedian and he does this, you might be a redneck routine. And he does some funny things like if someone asks you your name and you think for a minute, you can't quite remember, and you grab your belt buckle and you point up and look at it to remember your first name, Buck or whatever, you might be a redneck, or if you lose your car and you can't find it, then you mow the front yard and you find your car because you mowed the lawn, you might be a redneck. Or you mow the lawn and you find an old toilet you put out there when you were changing out toilets. It's a whole funny, you might be a redneck thing. So I kind of want to have some fun today and do that. You might be a victim. And what I mean by that is if you're at home right now and you're in the real estate field specifically, and you're struggling and you're like, well, if they could just get the rates lower, and I don't disagree with you, lower interest rates would help you, right? But sometimes, Eric, you remember the old story of the caterpillar that forms a cocoon, and then it has to squeeze through the tiny little hole, like with this ballpoint pen. It squeeze its whole body through a tiny little hole. And after great effort, hours and hours and hours, sometimes all day, it finally pops out of that other hole. And then it sits there for a while, just kind of moving its wings gently, drying out its wings, and then flies away as a beautiful monarch. We've all heard this story, this analogy. And one day, this little boy feels so bad for the caterpillar, it wanted to take away the struggle. It didn't want to have to work so hard. So he gently kind of cuts that tiny opening of the cocoon and makes it wider. And sure enough, the caterpillar, when it's gone through its metamorphosis, has an easier time to get through that hole. He comes out, tries to move his wings, but there's way too much fluid in the wings and dies within hours. And so the moral of the story was the struggle was necessary for it to live, because when it went through that tiny little hole, it squeezed all the fluids out of those wings. And so when they went to dry, they were able to dry it. It was able to fly away as a beautiful, stunning monarch. So I think what people are praying for, this high interest rates has got me down, or the new NAR settlement. And oh, wow, our companies are being sued for $50 million, $80 million, whatever, or the governor of my state is anti-real estate. I think that the very struggle you're wanting, that cup, that bitter cup you want taken away from your lips, is actually necessary. It's kind of a rite of passage. I know few people in life, and I'll ask you, Eric, that they just wrote their first book and it was a bestseller. And I mean, there are those stories, and they became multimillionaires and they never had a struggle and they lived happily ever. I mean, that it doesn't exist. Most people struggled greatly. And in so doing, they end up getting self-respect because they bootstrapped it. They raised themselves from the ashes of the fire, like the phoenix, right? They rose and then they have street credibility. They've been there, done that. And if they lose it all, they can get it again because they didn't win the lottery. They earned it. They're not a victim. They're victorious. So I think today's talk is going to be, how do you respond? When the chips are down, for example, let's say you get fired on a listing, or a buyer fires you and buys with somebody else. And do you respond, oh man, Coldwell Banker stole my client. I can't believe Coldwell. Or worse yet, you're a RE/MAX agent and you're like, a fellow RE/MAX agent stole my client. I'm never talking to John again. I'm never talking to Jenny again. If you respond that way when someone steals your client, i.e. a buyer or a seller, you might be a victim. like the Jex Fawthorsy thing, if you complain about interest rates all the time and how hard it is to get buyers to buy because of those interest rates, you might be a victim, and if you get fired on a listing and the sellers are really upset and they fire you and you're just whining and moaning how unfair it was, how hard you worked, you are a victim. Because you know what victorious people do? They go, okay, I got beat. They listed with Coldwell Banker in the midnight hour. It was all done, and Coldwell Banker swooped in. Or you work for Compass, and a fellow Compass agent swooped in and got a signed listing agreement. People will go, I can't believe they did that to me. Victim. What you want to do is say, okay, what can I learn from this? Like, what could I have done differently? And then when you ask, I had this happen one time. I went on a listing appointment, and one of my best friends went on that same listing appointment, and it turned out they were interviewing 5 companies, and he worked for a separate company. Now, this guy's, it's funny, his name's Steve Hillier. It's his birthday today, incidentally. Like, today is actually his birthday. And we've been friends for 40 years, but I don't know. I know they teach you, find out who they're interviewing with, who all your competition is, study your competition, show them how they're weak. They don't have many listings, how many listings I don't do that. But, whether that's right or wrong, I just don't do that. So I didn't know they were interviewing Steve as one of the 5. He worked for New Vision Realty. And at the time I worked for, I believe, Keller Williams. And they listed with another brokerage. And they told me, hey, Brent, God, geez, we really liked you. We were going to list with you. But we decided to do that last appointment. And man, we were really impressed. And we went ahead and listed our property with him. And so most people get butt hurt. They get their feelings hurt. I can't believe it. And all those sort of things. And then I said, okay, great. I'm excited for you. There's a victorious person. Well, they respond well. Oh, you bought a home this weekend? You'll call your client. Hey, I'd love to go show you property this weekend. They go, Eric, we're so excited. We bought a home yesterday. Now, trust me, any agent who has someone they've been showing property for 3, 6 months, a year, when they hear those words, they tend to go, you did what? And I've heard agents say, I've been showing property for a year. I cannot believe you would buy from somebody else. And they just browbeat the client. And that's a victim. Somebody's victorious. And I had to learn, train myself this. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Tell me about it. And they tell me all about it. I go, man, congratulations, and celebrate with them. Because guess what? You could learn and go, hey, real quick, just so I can learn how to provide for my family. I really want to learn. What did that agent do that I didn't do that you wrote the offer with them? I'm super glad you wrote the offer. I'm thrilled you got the house, but I want to get better. I want to be better for my family, for my wife, my kids. What did they do? And then listen. So in the case when I got beat by Steve Hillier, Eric, I said, what did he do that I didn't do? I really want to learn. Please don't tell me I didn't do anything, because obviously he did something I didn't do. You went and listed with him. So don't glad hand me. Don't say, oh, Brent, you're perfect. And it was a hard decision. There had to be a differentiator. And if you don't mind, I really want to improve and be better and give a higher level of service. And they told me what he did. And instead of going, well, I was enthusiastic, they said, man, he was super enthusiastic and he had passion. And I consider myself to be an enthusiastic, passionate person. I go, well, I'm passionate. I'm a victim, right? I listened and go, okay, well, explain that to me. They go, well, he said he wanted the listing so bad he could taste it. Like, well, I don't do that. He said, if we said jump, he said, how high? He said, nobody in this town would outwork him. Like nobody, not a chance. He'll turn over every rock, move every leaf. He will get the job done. And we just wanted a chance, give him a chance. Nobody had that kind of energy, that kind of passion. Not even you. You were close. You were number 2. You're the runner up. So rather than being offended, I was impressed. I go, okay, worthy opponent. So my next 10 listings, I want this listing so bad I can taste it. You say jump, I say how high. I'll turn over every rock, every leaf. Nobody's going to outwork me in this town. Boom, mowed down 10 straight listings because nice. I'm not a victim. I'm a victorious, yeah. And so I could have been offended. I go, by the way, so who was this masked man? Who was this knight in shining armor? They go, Steve Hillier. I go, Steve Hillier? Guess who could... Guess, and I was happy. I was telling you, this is a funny story. Guess who convinced Steve to quit being a general manager for Cold's Gym and to get his real estate license? Who? They go, I did. Guess who trained Steve Hillier? They go, who? I go, I did. Steve's one of my best friends. I love him. They go, oh my gosh, well, you did a really good job training him. And I go, you know what? Pretty soon the teacher becomes the student. And I learned from my student, Steve Hillier, and it totally helped me because I'm not a victim. So Eric, I just would love to get some observations. I know I said a lot there, but any observations about the cocoon story or the caterpillar turning into a butterfly or anything I said here, just that story, fire away.
Yeah, I love the opening to the podcast. And, sometimes when I'm going through adversity and I'm that, caterpillar coming out and it's like really, really hard. And I'll just say to myself, God's preparing me for something greater.
Love it.
I got to go through this. I don't understand it right now. I don't know why it's so hard, but it must be something really good because this is really tough right now. And I did like the examples too about like an agent working with somebody and then they go with somebody else. Yes. And I was actually on a call with a client. He's an EXP agent. And I was talking with him recently. And when we first started our coaching relationship, he was belly aching to me, Brent, about this deal where he worked with him and then he went with somebody else. And he was complaining about it. And I was coaching him around that. And so then the situation repeated itself recently, but he had a totally different attitude. And I was like, great job. And then I said to him, because the client, after they stopped using him and they went with the other person, they kept coming back to him, Brent, with questions. And so I said to him, why don't you go to them and say, hey, I know you've been asking me to answer these questions for you and you chose not to work with me anymore. Why don't we set up a meeting? And then in that meeting, I was coaching him to say to them, I know you were going to use me. You didn't use me. You still have these questions. I would like to see if we could reinvent our relationship. So moving forward, I'm your real estate agent for life. Would you be interested in building that kind of a relationship? And a recent insight that I've had is to take every relationship deeper, looking for how can I take every relationship deeper? And there was a thing that happened today, Brent, where the Denver Nuggets, who are one of the best teams in the NBA, they fired their head coach today and their general manager. And Brent, it's like a week before the playoffs start. Like they could be NBA champions this year and they just fired the coach. And this guy he previously has won an NBA championship. He's the winningest coach in the history of the franchise. And what it told me, even though I wasn't in the room when they fired him, it told me they had a disconnect in their relationship for that to occur. And so for all of you listening out there, as you're going through these different situations in your relationships, if you ever think somebody's going to go with you and they don't, ask yourself, what's happening in the relationship there? How can I take this relationship deeper? And maybe that'll give you some insight into helping you get more deals to the finish line. So that's what was coming up for me, and I'll turn it back over to you.
No, that's beautiful. I love it. So I want to do a couple more shocking about the Denver Nuggets, by the way. I gotta look what up. That's crazy. But, they're going to have to become a victim or victorious. They're going to go the coach and the general manager is going to have to go, okay, what can I learn from this? Take every horrible thing and find the silver lining. Find when your boyfriend breaks up with you, your girlfriend breaks up with you, you can go, she's mean, he's mean, or you could go, what was it and why? And they will tell you why they broke up with you, what it is about your personality. And you could go, that's not true. That's not true. Or you could go, okay, there must be some truth to it. Like, how can I address this? I remember I had this one agent and she had there's a personal space thing. Like if someone walks up to you and talks to you, Eric, I've talked to you many times. Have ever gotten within 18 inches of your face with my face? Have I ever done that to you ever in your life? No. Not a chance in the world. If I got within 12 inches of your face and started talking to you, would you be uncomfortable? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody would. there's this like 3-foot rule, man. You need at least 3 foot, if not 4, 5, 6, 7 feet. The more space you give people, the more comfortable. Now you don't want to stay 30 feet away and talk to them, but you got to have a sense of emotional intelligence, like what's comfortable now. So I had this one agent, and she had no sense of that. Like she would get up right in your face. I remember telling her, I said, Courtney, oh my gosh, you're freaking me out. I think you're amazing. I am like, no wonder you can't convert at open houses. Do you get this close to everybody? And she did. I'd watch her do it. She had no sense of that. And so I worked with her, and she couldn't get it. She always kept getting closer. They'd back up. So they'd back up. So she's like, well, I want to be closer. She'd get closer. They'd back up. She'd get closer. It was hysterical. So finally I was coaching her. I said, okay, pray to God there's an island in the kitchen. You got on the other side of that island. You're not allowed to go around that island there on one side. As long as you keep something between you and the person, you're going to do better. And she started doing that. I made a rule. You're not allowed to go right of the island left, because she would just come right up to their face. And it was so funny. And she started selling more homes once she put the island between them and created the space. But that's coaching. Or she could be offended. Well, how dare you? Because she was an amazing woman from like, oh God, I don't know, Kentucky. She rode thoroughbreds. She was in horsing communities. She's always proper and perfect. And how dare you tell me that I get too close to people? Or she could have been offended, but she wasn't offended. She was coachable. By the way, one day I thought of this. I never think of things, so I'm proud of myself. The word offended, when you're offended, you put up a fence. You put up a barrier. There, I'm offended by her. I'm offended by him, by them. I'm offended by this group of people. And a wall goes up, or a fence. The word fence is actually in the word offended. And so when someone puts you off, you put up the fence, you're offended, and you put up a fence between you and them. And that's just no way to go through life. So to quit being so offended and start being learned. I made up a word, but learn, like, go, what can I learn from this? The other day, my wife and daughter got really upset with me, and I didn't agree with my wife at all. I don't know if anyone's married here. I'm like, sure, you've always agreed with your spouse. You never thought your spouse was not seeing it correctly. And my daughter got upset too. I said, okay, either they're crazy or I'm crazy. And I go, you know what? I'm gonna assume that I'm crazy. I'm just not seeing this clearly. I'm not going to be a victim and build up a fence. Oh yeah, put up your dukes. And so I really tried hard to see this particular issue from my daughter's point of view, Sarah, and from my wife's point of view. And it helped me. And I was able to bring correction to my attitude, the way I was feeling about it. Like, okay, now when I see it from their perspective, I could see why they're upset with me. I didn't realize I was doing that. It was not my intention, but I could have just been mad and angry and fought back. And what does that do? It's like, it's like when they tell you, if you fight with a bear, what do? Play dead, man. You're not going to win this battle. Play dead. Because a bear, if you don't fight back, it's going to paw you around and do whatever it's going to do, and just cover your vital organs and crawl up into a ball. After a while, it just walks off. It's like, it's no fun to fight with someone if they're not fighting back. And my pastor used to say, it's like you see a dead man in a coffin, walk up, slap him in the face, bam, as hard as you can. And well, that's not very fun. I mean, just nothing happened. It's just like you can't hurt a dead man because he's dead. And so sometimes some of you are so alive, people offend you all the time. You get offended. I'm upset. You're doing road rage. You're cussing people out. You're swearing at them. You're flipping them off. You just get lit all the time because you're too alive. I mean, be alive, but you're too offendable. And so what you want to do is not be a victim, be victorious. And sometimes you absorb things, And so that time they were pretty upset with me. And I didn't think it was fair, but I go, I'm going to be bigger than this. I'm going to absorb it. Just apologize to my wife, apologize to my daughter, even though I didn't think so. I even called somebody and said, to make sure I'm doing, you're doing the right thing. Just be dad, be a dad, be a husband, absorb it. So I did. And I honestly, I felt unfair. And then I thought about it. And then I said, what can I learn from this? And I learned some things from it. And I felt great about response, which is why the police don't like going to domestic calls because people can't think. How, Eric, do you do your clearest thinking when you're red? I mean, when you're just angry, people say things they don't mean, do things they would never do. Because when you're enraged, you don't do your best thinking. You don't act out in wisdom, which is why the Bible says, do not hang out or associate with a hot-tempered man or woman, lest you become like them. And so we all see the hotheads, whether it's a man or woman. I mean, today, they joke around on the internet and call them Karens. And if your name's Karen, I apologize. But that's kind of become a name that people have, oh my gosh, they're going crazy. They're melting down. You don't want to, it matters who you hang out with. So again, today, if you can't make it because of your broker at Remax or your broker at EXP or the governor of your state, and if they would just do this, I pay too much in taxes. My wife and I moved to Puerto Rico. I live in Puerto Rico now because they had some great tax benefits. And I could have stayed in California and complained, this is unfair, this is unfair. But I took advantage of the tax code, which we're allowed to do. Anybody takes deductions for children, you're taking advantage of the tax code. It sounds bad to say I'm taking advantage of the tax code, but the tax code allows you to claim so many dependents, which lowers your tax hit. And so your gross pay and your net pay, and the difference between gross pay and net pay is gross. It's terrible, all the taxes you pay. So I think that in life, always look for the silver lining, always. And it will, I'll give it back to you, Eric, but it's like this. You know what makes a diamond the most valuable stone in the world is pressure. All a diamond is dirty, nasty coal that's put under extreme heat and pressure. And then through that, it becomes a diamond. So like Eric said, this may not be fair. And I'm a Bible guy, I'm Christian, I love the Lord. And it says, this world, you will have trials and tribulations. God told you that. So the next trial or tribulation you go through, wipe the blood off your face, back of your hand like a boxer and go, okay, it's too tough for you. It's just right for me. And you just got to fight through it and don't be a victim, roll over and curl into the fetal position when your boyfriend breaks up with you or your girlfriend breaks up with you or your employer fires you unjustly. Go, what was my part in this? Was there any part? And look hard and ask questions and ask people, show me, because we're blind. We are blind to our own stuff. We can see other people's issues. Oh my gosh, you drink too much, you eat too much, you get mad at the drop of a hat. No, I don't. No, I don't. People can't see their own issues. So get around good people with excellent character and the right integrity and do the right thing when nobody's looking and they have ethics and morals and they're going somewhere with their life. Get around those people because you will be in the next 5 years a direct result of the people you associate with and hang out with. And so hang out with victorious people that learn from their mistakes. So not afraid to make mistakes. You will make mistakes. The key is to learn from them and stop paying the dumb tax, because if you don't learn, you will continue to pay the dumb tax. And that's kind of what I got to say on the subject of being a victim or being victorious. Any final thoughts, Eric, or comments off something I said?
Yeah, I got a couple of thoughts. And one is that my first mentor, this is back when I was 22 years old, and he's a multimillionaire real estate investor, and we'd have these amazing conversations. And he didn't like it when people would meet with him and make excuses. And so it really put that thought in my head to the point where my first seminar that I taught with my own company back in 1999 was called the No Excuses Sales Seminar. And so I want all of you to just take a look and do some self-analysis. So this is in the back of the book, Think and Grow Rich. There's a whole set of questions that Napoleon Hill has you ask yourself. And are you right now, making excuses for poor results based on the interest rates? Or are you blaming your spouse? Or are you blaming your kids? Or are you blaming your business partner? Or are you blaming God? Or do you accept 100% responsibility for your results? And I think that kind of summarizes the conversation that we're talking about. And sometimes in life, to come full circle on Brent's story about the caterpillar, sometimes we got to go through something really tough to get that mental toughness, to get that resiliency, so we can then, have that a part of our life. Maybe we need to learn that to teach it to our kids or whatever the case may be. And so those are the things that I wanted to share. We thank you for being our listeners. Without you guys, there's no point for the show. And Brent, you want?
Hi, Matt. I'm interrupting Eric. I never interrupt at this point, but you've inspired me to tell a funny story. I think it's funny. I don't normally tell funny stories. This one's kind of somewhat on the humorous side, but I got to throw it in here.
Yeah.
Because I think, Eric, you and I would agree, action creates results, right?
Yeah.
And Tony Robbins is famous for saying massive action creates massive results. You put a little bit of action, action will create some sort of a result, more action, more result, bunch of action, bunch of results, massive action, massive results. And then he's also famous for saying this: if you're in your head, you're dead. If you're in your head, you're dead. You can think about losing weight. You can think about going to the gym. You could think about going on a date. You could think about, cleaning the closet or cleaning your car. But if you don't start cleaning the closet, the car, go on a date, doing, 30 open houses in the next 30 days. That's called massive action. A friend of mine did that. He put 7 homes in escrow. I never even had my thought. Well, think about it right now. Do an open house every day for the next 30 days. So that's a lot of work. Yep. Welcome to the human planet. So anyway, here's a funny story we'll end with. And it's a story of this old man. He's legendary on this lake. And days go out, everyone's catching fish. But then there's other days everyone goes out and everyone gets stumped. I don't know if you've ever heard, Eric, of fishing on a lake. Like, are they biting today? No, nobody's catching anything. You ever heard about that, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all heard that. And so, but this guy, every time he'd come back with a boat full of fish. I mean, he was legendary, this old codger, 88 years old, I don't know. He was an old timer. And everyone knew he had his hidden secret fishing spot. People try to find him, and he'd go off at 4:30 in the morning in the darkness and just vanish. And he had a special cove, this special place he'd go to. He always caught fish. Other people didn't catch it. So everyone's trying to find out for years where he goes. It's a big lake, and because he always caught the big ones. And so the warden, the fish and game warden's like, "Come on, Frank, you're gonna tell me." He bugged him all the time. "Where are you going, Frank?" And he's like, I'm just gonna go out fishing." And he'd have this little, cigar he'd smoke in his mouth, and he'd just get his little tin boat, little, 5 horsepower engine, just putt. He'd go off into the darkness and go fishing and come back with fish. So one day the fishing game warden's at the ramp, and he's "Come on, Frank, you got to tell me you can't go to your grave with the secret. You got to tell me what cove, where your spot is, your secret spot." And Frank shocked the heck out of him. He goes, "You really want to know?" He's "Get in." And the fishing game warden couldn't believe his eyes. He says, "Are you serious? You're going to take me to your hidden spot?" He goes, "I'm going to do it. Get in." And he's like, "Okay." And he just jumps in, and he's so excited because this guy's a legend. I mean, people have been trying to find his fishing hole for like 20 years. It's like a gold mine. If you're into fishing, it's like knowing somebody's gold mine. So they go off in the darkness, pop. They get out there, and the light's starting to come up, and he gets this place, and it didn't look particularly amazing. And the fishing game warden, he's like, "This is it?" He goes, "How do you get fish here all the time?" And Frank just smiles at him and holds a cigar off to the side, reaches in his tackle box, grabs a stick of dynamite, lights up a cigar, throws it over the edge, boom, and up floats 10, 20 big old glunkers, big, giant German brown trout. He takes a net, he just swoops them up and throws them in the boat. And the fishing game warden's got his hands on his head. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you did not just do this," because this is highly illegal. Like, you cannot fish with dynamite. You have to catch them with a pole. You can't even fish with nets. This is not legal. And the fishing game warden's like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing, man? I got to arrest you. I got to write you up. What do you want?" He's freaking out. And Frank just smiles at him, reaches in the tackle box again, puts that stick of dynamite up to a cigar. It's lights, and he tosses it to the fishing game warden. The fishing game warden, he's holding a burning stick of dynamite, and he's freaking out. "Oh my God, what are you doing, Frank? I can't believe this." And Frank looks at me and goes, "Look, you're going to talk, you're going to fish." And the fishing game that's about to go off, he throws it, boom, all the fish come up. And so it's a funny story about, man, in life, you can talk about your goals and dreams, and it's just a pipe dream. They're just pipe dreams. Stop talking and do something about it. And so it's a funny story to illustrate the point. Go do something. Now, don't do anything illegal. We're not proposing that. It's a funny story. It's a joke, but go get in action. And so I'd forgotten about that story, and I thought, I'm going to throw that in here to cap it off. So back to you, Eric.
Yeah, well, just quick thought on what you just shared. When it comes to action, everybody listening, you have total control over this. Every one of you in your business every day can go into massive action if you choose it, whether it's door knocking, prospecting, networking, open houses, whatever the case may be. We all have that opportunity. So massive action. We'll wrap with that thought. And as I always say at the end of our podcast, highly encourage you to listen to the podcast multiple times to put the best ideas that were discussed today into your subconscious. And please share the podcast with your team and with your organization so they can benefit from the ideas that were shared today. Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to connecting with you on the next podcast. Bye for now.
Absolutely. See you then.
Okay, so here's the deal. We have incredible information, video content on my YouTube channel. Go over there and make sure you subscribe. And it's vital that you ring the bell. If you ring that bell every time I put out new content, it's actually going to notify you, and you can get the latest and greatest of what's happening at EXP. Now, don't forget to like me on Facebook so you can also get that content, and then follow me on Instagram. We're hitting everybody high, low, and in between. We're trying to get the information out there so you can build big businesses, revenue share organizations. So go to YouTube right now. Please subscribe and ring that bell. Like me on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. We'll see you out there.